Coming up, a Sad Styles production.
Get into it.
And welcome to the Retrograde video game podcast, where this week we try our hands at poker, except it's not really poker.
Hey, you'd be surprised what it is, because it's not poker. My name's Andrew Baskin. With me, as always, is the bad boy of podcasting, Mr. Bebop himself.
My key of a kind, Aaron Warner.
Oh, that's good. That's really exciting. I do love that it's like, do you know poker? Good. Kind of lose most of it.
Yeah, you know the names and the words involved in poker. Okay, let's pretend they have no association to real poker.
Honestly, if you're common with cards and you know poker hands,
yes,
stop there.
Yes,
that's it.
That's it.
Yeah.
There is there's a little bit of help you can get. And obviously we're talking about the game Balatro today.
Balatro.
A game that we're going to spend most of the episode talking about. It's kind of sweeping the gaming world by storm right now. We played it over on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/retrograde podcast. We played it for a good 40 minutes or so, longer than we expected to.
A lot longer.
Our first time playing it, the full tutorial. So if you've never played it, you can get a sense of what it is from the ground up. It's not going to be a confusing watch because we learn the rules along with the viewers. We at first we're like, poker, great.
Yeah.
I know poker.
Yeah.
I can get into
Right.
it. By the end of it, we're like, this has nothing to do with poker. The only thing that helped was knowing what is ranked, like a pair is less than 3 of a kind,
Yes.
is less than 4 of a kind, up to a certain point. And we'll get into the rules and mechanics of it that differentiate it and make it so that everything you know about poker doesn't matter in a little bit. But yeah, I was excited to give this a shot, and I'm excited to talk about it in a little bit.
Yeah, it's you know when you get all your friends together and you have a poker night and you're like, this is a lot of fun. You're like, great, no friends. You're completely antisocial.
See, this is why I like it.
Yeah.
Have you done like a poker night? Is that a thing that you guys used to do?
I used to be a part of a regular one for a while, and then actually, funny enough, I'm going on a bachelor party in a couple of months, and we're going to a state that doesn't have gambling, doesn't have casinos.
Oh,
so they were going to do.
what state is that?
I don't want to dox myself.
You don't want to dox the whole state?
Yeah. It's the state of Delaware. No. Wouldn't that be interesting? I'm going to one of the smallest states for a bachelor party.
Yeah, it'd be cool.
That actually would be
That
cool
would
if
be
you
really
just picked
cool.
a thing out of a hat. Because guess what, we're going the same place everyone goes.
Yeah,
In Nashville.
yeah.
Is that or Nashville or Austin?
Yeah.
But in New Orleans too, but like New Orleans is actually kind of sick. So, and so they were talking.
Conveniently skipped over Vegas, which is where you went.
Oh shit! Yeah, I didn't even think about it. That's where we went for our bachelor party.
Yeah. I was
Yeah.
like, you do realize that that's also very common, right?
Yeah, and it fucking rocked.
It was awesome. It was a
so
great time.
good. We're going to one, and so people were organizing. They were going to bring a dealer in,
Right.
And we were going to have a poker night. And I was like, oh, that sounds like a lot of fun. And then everyone got. I don't know these people, so like I know the person getting married, and I don't know the rest of the people.
Yeah.
And everyone got a little squirrely, and I'm like, oh, that was actually
because it's illegal.
I guess, or I don't know why. Maybe money, or they just don't like gambling, which I would also say nerds.
I don't like gambling.
I don't, but Balatro.
That's why when you describe
Sorry,
this,
I'm pointing at the computer.
you're pointing at the pewter.
I'm pointing at the pewter.
Andrew, don't dox the name of our upcoming new podcast, pointing at the pewter.
I'm just pointing at my favorite color, pewter. I'm pointing at my favorite gym that Brock runs.
Oh,
In pewter.
wasn't it?
Oh no, is that the wait?
It was one. It was
It's something like that, right?
Yeah,
Okay, I wasn't that far
yeah,
off.
Yeah,
People
the
know what I'm
pewter
talking
badge. Yeah, stop pointing at the pewter. Start focusing on Balatro. No, when you described it as like poker, but without the socializing and none of the rules, I was like, first of all, no rules does scare me a little bit, but then
Yeah.
none of the socializing. Oh boy, I'll take all that you got.
You started undoing your pants already.
Exactly.
Like, why do I have to do more of these?
You know me, Andrew.
Mm-hmm.
When there's no one around,
You wear a 3-piece tux.
it's you
Tails.
joke, but if I go to if I come home from work,
Yes.
and there's no one home,
Yeah.
and I know no one's going to be home for the rest of the night,
Right.
I have like a tucked in shirt. If I go to the bathroom, I'm retucking that shirt in.
It's crazy, guys. Yeah. The thing is, Mikey's not playing a character. This is just a severe thing that he's got in his brain. I've never seen you wear jeans. Like you don't wear runners. Like you don't wear, it's always
To the gym, I wear brogues and wingtips, and that's about it.
Yeah, there you go. And in the gym, you wear your finest boxing suit.
My boxing suit, my boxing shorts.
Yeah, it's like the original Queensberry rules where two
Yes.
men just punch each other in suits.
In a tuxedo.
Yes,
Exactly.
yes.
Yeah. No, but not just the lack of socializing excited me about Balatro. And we have like a full episode planned going over the rules, going over our impressions, recommending it, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
I would recommend if you have the time to go watch that over on YouTube,
Yeah.
the gameplay before we actually get into it. And before you and I focus on talking about our impressions and stuff, I want to give a quick update, gaming wise. Like, what have we been playing?
Please.
Because I've been playing a game that similar to Balatro. It seems like and I just said Balatro for some reason.
Yeah.
Balatro is how I'm going to say it.
Yeah. Also, the creator said doesn't matter. So.
Yeah, he said,
give it
I don't
carte
give a
blanche.
fuck, just buy my game.
Yeah.
And people are. The other game that everyone seems to be talking about these days, apart from Helldivers 2, is Deep Rock Galactic Survivor.
Deep Rock Galactic Survivor. I've heard so much about this game.
It is. So you and I have talked on the podcast before about Vampire Survivors.
Oh, yes, we have.
No, we've also talked.
Yes, we have talked. I'm agreeing with you.
Sometimes we actually talk about important things.
Yep.
For the most part, it's just us trying to fill an hour.
Did you imagine if that's what it was? Like, it's like, what else?
Looking
What
at
else?
the- looking at our watches.
What else? Looking around the room, opening a newspaper, like fucking like a Jay Leno bit. Like, okay, what else is in the news?
Yeah, people don't realize I have to edit out like 20 minutes of silence in between most of the points that we make.
It's silent then. Oh, okay. Okay, what about
Deep Rock Galactic Survivor?
Yeah, right. Yeah. Okay.
It's the other game apart from Balatro, and Helldivers 2 that people are talking about.
Yeah.
It is like Vampire Survivors, which is a game that we've talked about on this podcast in and among the 20-minute gaps in conversation, where you as the player character move around and you have weapons that are firing, but you don't actually choose when or where they fire. They just happen automatically and rhythmically. As you go through this, you have tons of enemies coming at you. They start pretty weak and there's only a few of them on the screen, but as you kill them, you collect experience and then you can unlock new weapons so that the rhythmic firing changes in different ways with different effects, and in terms of the frequency and the reload speeds and all this stuff. So as you kill more enemies, you get more experience. Your attacks become stronger, faster, more frequent. Weapons become more available to you, so that the more enemies and the stronger enemies that the game throws at you, the easier you can now deal with those ones.
Is it like a tower defense game?
It's almost as though if you could move the tower around the game map and the enemies followed you instead of trying to like get past you.
Okay, is this like these okay, this is something this has been a thing for me for a while. Do you get these ads on Instagram and social media for like Age of Origins or other video games like this?
Come play with me, my lord.
Okay, there's those ones where you have to like block something or water's getting released and it's going to drown a stupid person.
Which looks great.
It does. It just looks so good. But there's one that's kind of like this where the guy is going backwards and hordes of zombies are coming at him. And he always dies, and I'm always
like... It's a little similar to that, except it's more of like an open isometric thing where you can go up, down, left, right. Which differentiates it from Vampire Survivors. If anyone out there listening has played that, there's a resource management and like mining mechanic to this game, which allows you and encourages you to not just destroy as many enemies as possible, which is what would be the case with Vampire Survivors. You're also collecting resources to unlock more levels to your weapons faster. So it's really hard to explain this genre of game if you've never played it, but especially because to explain to someone that you don't press fire ever, you just move your character around and everything happens for you, that sounds boring and bad, but it plays on that same mechanic that like it's just number go up. And that's very addictive. Number go up. Number of enemies, amount of damage that you're doing, amount of experience that you're collecting,
which are numbers.
All of this stuff is just, you go from feeling very vulnerable to very powerful when done right. And if you die, you start again. It's like a roguelike, kind of like Balatro, where you come out of it. And then you can kind of upgrade it to make subsequent runs a little bit easier. You know, your base level of damage, you can pay to increase that based on the resources that you collect, your luck, your movement speed, your mining speed, all this stuff. So there's always a feeling of urgency to like get right back in there and try another run. A run takes like 20 minutes or something like that. It's very bite-sized, very easy to get into. I think it's worth you trying. Either this or Vampire Survivors, just to get a sense of what this genre of game is about.
Where can you play this game?
You can play this on Steam. I think it's only available on PC because it's in early access right now. But Vampire Survivors is everywhere, I think including mobile, which is a great choice if you have that.
I'm about to travel, so I'm trying to add some stuff to my Switch.
The Switch, I think Vampire Survivors is like $1.50 or something like that, and very low maintenance.
I'll wait for it to go on sale, of course.
$1.29.
Whoa.
You're going on vacation. You got to save your money a little.
How do you think I paid for the vacation?
By only buying games on sale. By buying a bunch of games that are on sale.
I've been listening to a bunch of like older boomers that are like, if you just waited for that game to be on sale,
that's it.
You could have 6 houses by now.
You should. And why don't you have 6 houses? Because you know why? Those houses never go on sale.
That's a very good point.
That's the problem. That's what you should say to the boomers.
Goes up and up and up.
Yeah.
That's it.
You think I should buy things on sale, boomer? How about one of your properties you put on sale at 50% off and see what happens?
Let's see what happens. Yeah. That sounds awesome. I've heard great things. I really, really want to play that game.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, I talk on this podcast a lot about how sometimes I struggle with the 70 to 100 hour games. It's just hard to commit that much time to any one thing. But I think when something is bite sized and a little bit less intimidating, like a Deep Rock Galactic, like a Vampire
Balatro.
Survivors or Balatro, I maybe I should just say Balatro.
Who cares? He doesn't.
Now
The guy that created it.
That makes me care. It's like he nags me.
Can you imagine you're like, this is my daughter, Abigail, and you're like, Abigail? And he's like, doesn't matter. He's like, can you imagine just going, oh, fuck it, I don't care.
If you introduced your daughter as Abigail and someone, a normal name that people know.
Abigail?
And someone said Abigail.
Big Gale?
I'd be like, you're not allowed to see my daughter. You either have a brain tumor, in which case your relationship isn't going to last very long. Well, I mean, it's true though.
Yes.
I'm looking out for my daughter. I don't want them to make a Fault in Our Stars about her life story.
Wow, a Nicholas Sparks reference. Something we all saw coming. Everyone's bingo card at home just can cross that one off. That was a free card.
Someone's just hovering over Robert Frost like Sparks and Frost, baby.
There better be a Sylvia Plath or I'm screwed on this one. I'm going to travel, so I wanted to add a few things. Speaking of the Switch, though.
Yeah.
That Disco Elysium, I'm just telling you, everyone home, get ready. I hope you're ready to talk about the episode because we told people to play it, right? Of course. And so I want them to be able to talk about it when we have a spoiler episode coming up very soon. I can't put a time on it because we sometimes delay these episodes and stuff like that, but that's going to be coming up very soon.
Plus, we're a little bit ahead on recording. But
that's what I mean.
Andrew, I'm so excited to talk to you about Disco Elysium. I don't. This might be an Oppenheimer situation where famously on our Patreon, we RIP Patreon, we sat down to talk about Oppenheimer. For some reason, we were talking about Oppenheimer on the Patreon, and
Patreon rocked. We could just talk
about
whatever we
It was so good. I fully believed we were going to just shit on Oppenheimer for about an hour and a half. And you're like, it's my favorite Christopher Nolan movie ever made.
I was like, man, I think that was the best movie of the year at that time. And, for whatever most people I think feel are like, it's up there. The funniest part about that conversation was I like the first person you talked to about that movie?
Probably.
Yeah, because then...
Well, no, because there were reviews of people saying like, this is great, but there were also at that time a lot of mixed reviews. So I didn't know what I usually don't have my finger on the pulse with like general thoughts on movies.
Yeah.
So I didn't know for sure.
Gotta get Letterboxd. I love that thing so much. And then subsequently after we talked, you must have been like, you too?
Yes.
Wait, you two? And then what number did you get to eventually where you're like, okay, wait a second.
Maybe it was me. No,
Maybe, yeah.
To this day, I think it's about 50-50 with people I talk to.
Really?
Of either being like, very few people are like, it sucked.
Yeah.
And I don't think it sucked. I think it's one of those, it's kind of like a Red Dead thing where I'm like, I kind of pull really hard on the rope because everyone is like, it's a masterpiece. And I'm like, I don't think that's true at all.
Yeah. Once it's not a masterpiece, you hate it.
Yeah,
like because there's no middle ground.
Well, there is a big gap, I think. When someone calls something a masterpiece, I get my back up a little bit.
Sure. Yeah, like Red Dead.
Yeah. No one calls me a masterpiece.
No.
Why?
Well, I don't know. Like you think you're without with your no imperfections? Like you think you're flawless?
Think?
Yeah.
Do a lot of thinking, Andrew. Never about my flaws. You know why?
Because you think too much.
Wait a second. Let me. What does that mean?
Oh boy.
What does
just
he mean by
sobbing.
that? What does he mean? I think too. That could be good.
You just start doing the reverse Christopher Reeve Superman thing where you start just hunching over.
Is that because I fell off a horse?
Oh wow. A horse employed by Lex Luthor.
That horse's name? Kryptonite.
That should have been the first time.
Should have been.
No, there's a great video of those old Superman movies, which really there's only one good one. They made like 5, and they always do the thing of like how does no one know?
Yeah,
that Clark Kent is Superman.
Yeah,
and Christopher Reeve, a big strapping handsome man, right? He does this thing with the whole
pre-horse accident.
Yeah, near the end of his life.
I'm just saying. I'm just making it.
That's
clear.
like me saying like Marlon Brando. It's like before he discovered McDonald's. Like okay, good. Yeah, good point. Good reference.
I'm just saying before you get to your point. If you were to exhume Marlon Brando, he's not going to look as good as he once did.
None of us do.
So we should clarify.
Keep that in mind. Put a thought in that one.
What the fuck does he mean by that?
But when he's Clark Kent, he's like bent over the whole time, and then he becomes Superman. He just stands up and he puts his chest out, and you think it sounds so stupid, and then you watch it and you're like, you know what? kind of works.
100%. There is an argument. The glasses thing is funny to me, yes. But there is also this element of like What?
What a nerd.
Yeah, they're a bunch of fucking nerds, and nerd's not going to be Superman. Superman's perfect.
I also think this is also a common belief. Then we're going to talk about Balatro, but is that like most celebrities, if you just knew them and they worked in the office, they would be a good-looking person you worked in the office with, but you wouldn't be like, that person is perfect. Oh my God.
Yes.
You should be on Vogue.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And I just always think like Ryan Gosling, handsome guy, but he could be the guy in sales 100%. Very quickly.
I know a lot of people in my life who are more, I think, traditionally handsome.
Thank you.
And, well,
you laughed? You couldn't even get it out before you laughed.
Andrew, when
in my face. The thought of me being traditionally handsome made you laugh at me. Wow. Oh my God.
I'm just saying,
Yeah.
once we die, we're all going to look like shit. So it doesn't matter.
Thanks. All right.
You're not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to really deliver something well, being on that side of the joke, and then get mad at me for laughing at it.
For laughing, you could be like, oh, yes, of course. Because we're friends.
Oh, yeah, that's what you do to me when I self-deprecate.
I always go like, oh, that's great you think that. I don't go like, oh, wow. Wow. Okay.
This is what you just did. You're like, knock, knock.
Who's there?
This ugly piece of shit, which is a great joke.
No. You know what?
No,
in Balatro, you had a straight. None of them were hearts, I'll tell you that. Fucking asshole.
Yeah, my jab's cut like a diamond edge.
Yeah.
Yeah, I spare no casualties in this. Spare?
Spade.
Wait, we were not bowling that whole time? It's not Balatro?
No, I think you've taken that horse and clubbed it to death.
Nice.
Thank you.
Revenge for Christopher Reeves.
When there's a huge Superman fan out there who's like, I'm going to fucking kill a horse today.
Dude, you know how you get those things where you're like listening to a podcast or you think of something and then you realize that for 10 minutes you've just been like internalizing something and like visualizing or having an argument in your head or something. Like that's a thing that we all do, right?
As a guy that talks to himself pretty casually.
Yes. So the other day I was listening to a podcast and someone was telling a story about how there's this place, I think it's in the Philippines, where there are monkeys that will steal your like watch or your
yeah,
thing.
that makes sense.
And in order to get it back, you have to buy like a mango pop from one of the vendors and like throw it up to the monkeys and then they throw your stuff
Smart
down.
monkeys.
So,
that's so cool.
But clearly the mango pop vendors are in on this. And
I
that
would
sort of
imagine
thing.
they taught him that trend, yes.
And I realized after hearing that story, I was in a car and I don't remember how I got from point A to point B. I just remember thinking I would be justified in picking up a rock and throw, like I would threaten the monkey. I'd be like, I'm going to throw this at your head.
Yes.
And no one would be able to it stole from me.
Yeah.
I would throw a rock at the monkey's head.
Yeah.
I would kill the monkey.
You'd kill that monkey.
Because it stole my sunglasses.
I thought you were going to turn the rock throw it into the mango pop vending machine, which like, that's like the psycho test where it's like, your mother dies and you meet the most perfect person at your funeral.
Yeah.
What has to happen next? Will I kill my father or something like that?
Yeah.
Yours is like, I'm going to kill that monkey. It's like, just free up the vending pops. Like the mango pops.
I'm killing the monkey.
Yeah.
I just had like in my mind for 10 minutes, I was murdering a monkey.
You just imagine that's the darkest bucket list I've ever seen. It's like, oh, good, I get to murder monkey. Like, what else is on that list?
A lot of things. Eating mango pops for one. Avenging Christopher Reeves is the last one on that list. And somewhere in the middle is playing Balatro.
Oh my goodness.
A game that, we've said 1,000 times has kind of taken the world by storm. It was developed by Local Thung and published by PlayStack. Local Thung is a Canadian developer.
Local Thung.
One person.
One person.
It's
like a Stardew Valley.
Local Thunk, sorry.
Thunk, yes.
Local Thunk. I think so. Because I wrote it down twice, and once it was Thung, and once it was Thunk. So just like in poker, we're taking a chance and assuming it's Thunk.
Yeah, I'm discarding one and going with the other.
It was released February 20th, 2024 on the Switch, PS4, PS5, Windows, Xbox One, and Xbox X/S. It's coming to mobile, which is going to be great. I feel like this is going to be a great mobile game.
A great mobile game.
Right?
I was thinking that the whole time I was playing
100%. And it's available on Mac OS, so you might end up getting this because I know you're a Mac boy. Local Thunk worked on this for 2.5 years.
Wow.
Apparently, Local Thunk just made games as a hobby, had made like 10 random games here and there just to kind of share with their friends. But this one started out kind of as like an online deck building game, I guess kind of like a Hearthstone or something along those lines, and then realized that if we made it single player and roguelike, that it might take on this whole new look and feel. Local Thunk claims that while they were making the game, they purposely didn't play any other deck builders like Slay the Spire or something like that because they didn't want to have any of those ideas kind of seep into the development cycle.
That makes sense.
They quit their job to put the finishing touch on this game, and just basically so they could put it in their portfolio to like get new jobs. Instead, they did pre-release on Steam. A couple streamers picked it up. It went gangbusters. It sold, and actually before pre-release, before it went to its actual release, Local Thunk took a lot of community requests or like support and incorporated that into the game. Like boss battles were a thing that was requested by the community, and they ended up incorporating into the game. It sold within 8 hours of being released.
Yeah,
it grossed $1 million.
Wow.
So this is someone who thought this was just going to be a pet project that would be put in their portfolio. Since then, within only a month of its release, it sold 1 million units.
Whoa.
And it keeps on going. You can imagine once it gets on mobile, it's going to completely go through the roof.
Do you know what it's retailing for?
I think it's like $13 Canadian or something along those lines.
That's amazing.
It's very, very impressive. An interesting story as well. Peggy, which is the ratings system over in the UK, gave this an 18 plus because they're very sensitive towards gambling, which is weird because they had like the betting apps advertised on every football match. Yeah, forever ago.
They had it forever. And they also, but I think they're really hard on loot boxes and stuff like that too.
They are.
Which I can imagine, I can see how that is similar to this.
Yes.
Because you know what I mean? You know?
Well, but so they ended up, I think it was basically, they, Local Thunk kind of advertised this as a poker roguelike.
Okay.
Like poker deck building game. So I think the ratings board just basically went like poker is gambling, therefore 18 plus. It limited where the game could be sold, like in certain marketplaces, but they've ended up clearing that out because they're like, although it's poker, there is no gambling. It really is, poker is the jumping off point as like to sell the game, but it really has nothing to do with poker.
Gotcha.
Or gambling, really.
Yeah.
Metacritic has given this game an 88 to a 95 overall, depending on the platform. So, you and I played it for about 45 minutes or so over on YouTube, but, does it have lasting appeal? That's where we can't speak to as much, but apparently it definitely does.
Wow.
Game Informer. 95%.
Wow.
Very, very impressive.
Also, Game Informer, way to keep going strong.
100%.
Because we talked about Game Informer from the 90s.
Still up and running.
Wow, that's amazing.
Still up and running.
Okay.
Gotta love some of those reviews. So, Balatro, what can we say about it? It's a roguelike deck building game.
Yes.
Is that fair to say?
Yes, I think those are the words that come first before even the words poker.
Yes. Yeah, I think so as well. Yeah. I think poker is almost like the cocoon which gives birth to the butterfly, to the chrysalis. This game.
Yeah, 100%. Interesting. I think there's a certain amount of Pokemon Snap corollary.
Okay.
That you're like, oh, do you like poker?
Oh, interesting.
And you're like,
yes.
Yeah, and you're like, have you ever played a roguelike? And they're like, what is that? And you're like, well, come in, my friend. Come in.
That's a great point because you and I have I've talked about Slay the Spire. I've talked about Inscription. Both are deck building games that I played at a time when I really didn't think I liked deck building games. Now I know that I have a penchant for it, that I can get into them. But I've been telling you about them for a while, and this was the one that got your attention. Maybe it is the poker thing. Maybe you're like, okay, there's enough that I can relate to get my foot in the door. Do you find that had like a bit of an effect on you?
Well, yes, because I think you said this for the YouTube video. You are the roguelike person.
Yes.
I am the gambling person.
Yes.
And it's like, you got chocolate on my peanut butter. You got peanut butter on my chocolate.
100%. Everyone knows about roguelikes and gambling. They're like Reese's Pieces.
They are like Reese's Pieces or peanut butter cups.
cups.
Do you know people pronounce it Reese's Pieces?
Yeah, those people deserve to get stomped by a horse named Kryptonite. That's insane.
I completely... Wait, is that what happened to Christopher Reeve? I thought he just fell off.
It fell off, but he was still alive. Yeah. He was fine, actually.
Oh.
The horse circled back.
His horse back, punched him right in the jaw.
The horse put it in reverse.
Yeah.
Walked right back over him. Went forward again. Walked right back over.
Horse is beeping the whole time.
Yeah, exactly.
I agree with you. There is a certain amount of... Like, I was attracted immediately because it's like poker. I'm like, oh, hey, I like poker.
I know how to play
and
that.
You're like, hey, I like card building games. Like, oh, deck games, excuse me. So I think there's a little bit for everyone because it's not entirely all roguelike and it's
Right.
not entirely all poker.
Right.
So there is a certain amount of combination.
100%. I mean, we had a run where we didn't even have to reset and start again from the scratch, which is kind of like the typical thing of a roguelike.
I would agree. It would have happened eventually.
It would have. It has to, essentially. But I was kind of impressed or surprised with it. Usually in these sorts of games, whether it's Rogue Legacy or even a Vampire Survivors, as you're getting a feel for it, the runs last like 5 minutes because you die very quickly. And then you start to get to, but this, I took to it pretty quick. We both did, in terms of understanding what it was asking from us. We could have probably gone another few rounds before we ever had to start again.
I would agree with you because we were doing it with pretty good ease. We didn't face any resistance at all.
No.
There was no like, oh shit, we need this one here. Like you often do in gambling. Oh, I need this.
Oh, I need this.
God, my rent. Yeah, I agree with you. But at the same, okay, sorry to put you on the spot.
Yes.
Is there an end game to this?
No, there isn't.
It's infinite.
It just keeps on going.
Okay.
It just keeps on going. And let's do this to give a little bit of context for people who either didn't watch the video or aren't familiar with the game itself. I'm going to run through kind of how the game is played, and then you can chime in with some additions or some thoughts on how those mechanics kind of came to the forefront.
Sounds good.
So, as we mentioned, poker and the words that explain its rules. Forget what the words mean. I'm talking ante, I'm talking blinds, I'm talking even river, all that. Yeah, we at first you have a tutorial guide. His name is Jimbo the Joker.
Yeah.
It's a card, Joker. And he's like, play your card. And I looked at you and you're like, before we even know what the river is.
Yeah, we play against what?
Yes. Yeah. No, against nothing. You just want points. That's it.
You're just trying to amass the best hand possible.
The best hand possible over rounds. So, each runs are important in roguelikes. Each run, you build a deck as you go, but earning money, aka chips, and buying cards which serve as upgrades, multipliers, etc. So the whole thing is you've got a deck of 52 regular cards, and as you go, you end up unlocking new cards which have multipliers to the standard hands that are played in poker. So 2 of a kind, 3 of a kind, 4 of a kind, flush, straight flush, all that sort of stuff. Each round, and there are 3 in each ante, which we'll get to, is called a blind, in which you have a set number of hands and discards in order to reach a given point/chip threshold. Yeah. So you can discard up to 5 cards at a time. I think you're dealt probably 8.
I think you're dealt 8, yes.
I think you're dealt 8. So you have to use those 8 cards to either discard cards and replace them to try to make a better hand for yourself, or lay down 5 hands, therefore 5 giving cards. 5 cards, giving you a point total based on how high the hand was.
And this is where poker comes in, not just because of the deck of cards, because you're trying to amass poker hands.
Yes.
Flushes, straights, royal flushes, pairs, 2 pairs, three of a kind, things like that. Obviously, it's the same rules as poker where, a pair is pretty low, 3 of a kind is more, 2 pairs is more than that, and it goes up from there. And so that really works. And then on top of that, I don't want to
go for it.
But is that if there's multipliers attached to cards, if there is certain cards that you've accumulated on the top, they can be helped to add bonuses here and there. And so we got really, I would say, lucky as well that we did discard some cards and start getting some straights and straight flushes fast.
We pulled a lot, and within each round or each blind, you have a set number of discards you can do, and it's not like you can discard and then you have to play a hand.
Yes.
If you have 5 discards you're allowed to do in a round, you can do them all at once until you get like one massive hand. And I think at the lower levels, like where we were at, one really good hand will get you over the hump. So if you have 3 of a kind and 4 of a kind is going to do it, you can pretty much discard everything but those 3 that you have until you get one more of the card that you're waiting for, the 4th of a kind.
I find it very interesting that that Mr. Thunk did this the way it is, because you could have just made these cards figures that had points or clans, and you had to these are all in the same clan, you get 5 cards.
True.
And then instead of chips, it was just points.
Yeah.
Because essentially it's a weird combination of the 2 of those things, because as we're saying, you get 2 pairs. There's a threshold that you're trying to meet every round so you can move up. And 800 points, it didn't really matter. It also doesn't line up with poker.
No, not at all.
But at the same time, it's not confusing. Maybe it's just an entryway to get people in.
I think that's what it is, and I think that works. Like, I know for a fact, I thunked that that if my mom and dad were to play Slay the Spire, they would get addicted to it. I know that for sure. Mm-hmm. It's a great formula. It's addictive in the same way that a lot of the games that they play are, like these little phone games and things like that.
Do your parents play phone games?
They play, yeah, sometimes.
Okay.
It's often like Wordle or like these
Yes.
like word matching games, or like a numbers based game.
Okay.
All something like Slay the Spire or even Balatro is a translation of that with a new skin. Like that, it's really just like, how do you get the highest score? That's what everything is here.
Right.
So I know they could like a game like Slay the Spire, but the visuals, they're never going to get over that. They're going to be thinking the whole time like, these are monsters. I don't want to play a game with monsters.
100%.
So if I showed them something where the shorthand is ace, 2, 3, 4, 5, up to
Flush,
up
straight.
to king.
Yeah.
The same powers of hands, the spade, diamond, heart,
Yes.
etc. These are all familiarities where you're not immediately feeling like you're drowning and treading water if you have no context for gaming.
See, this is like something with Marvel Snap. I want to talk about parents in a second, but this
Sure.
is kind of like something with Marvel Snap too, because it is a kind of rudimentary card game
Yes.
that there are very similar games out there.
Sure.
Why am I playing Marvel Snap? It's because I know the characters and it's
100%.
kind of fun where it's like never revealed before. And I'm like, oh, who's that?
Yeah.
Forge from X-Men. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah,
what does
yeah.
he do? And that part keeps me in instead of like Glipglorp, the, barbarian. I'm like, what does Glipglorp do? Oh, and I eventually my eyes would haze over, right? And I think it's something with parents.
Well, that's Glipglorp's power.
What, his eyes haze over? He
Yeah,
blinds
yeah,
his
yeah, he
opponents.
blinds you, yeah.
Just throw sand in your eyes. Okay, so my parents are the same way, right?
Yeah.
When it comes to technology, I think they are now resentful of me when I'm like, you know what you guys need? They're
Yes.
like, okay.
Yeah,
all right.
yeah, yeah,
What,
yeah,
what,
yeah.
What do you want? And
Yeah.
you're like, I'm trying to help your life.
Yes.
Except in the few areas in which they have given in a little bit, like now recommending TV and movies, they're like, okay, so what else you got?
Yeah, yeah,
What else?
yeah, yeah.
Because
Yeah.
they've liked a few of the suggestions.
for sure.
But if I started doing like video games, they would get, like, it was when I got them an Apple TV and I said 3 years ago, I'm like, you guys probably will not use cable in a couple of years.
Yeah.
And and they laughed at me. And then they brought that up again like a couple weeks ago and they're like, you know what? Maybe and you're like, I know, right? But I imagine with a game like this, and if I brought to them and it wasn't a normal 52 deck, bicycle playing cards and stuff like that, they probably would be like, no, I'm just out of hand.
100%.
No, I'm not doing that.
And that's sometimes enough, is just their unwillingness to learn the aesthetics of a new thing.
Yes.
Like that's what it takes. And then I would imagine if someone who's not into gaming got into Balatro, they might then say, oh, you know what? Deck building games, let me try the next step.
1000%.
Yeah.
Everyone's been there. You've been there for a game night and somebody brings out a new board game.
yeah.
And then they have to crack into 18 minutes to explain the rules. And you really better be bought in or you're like, oh.
100%. Yeah. So we'll keep on going with so we talked about the blinds and how there's a point threshold, chip threshold. Every time I say points, it's synonymous with chips. Just keep that in mind. Each time you play a hand, you're awarded chips based on the types of cards you play, pair, flush, etc. And multipliers are applied based on the hands themselves and card upgrades.
Right.
So you can get something, which I'll go, let me go over now, actually. There are card types. And I think it's important to go over the card types. So as we talk about multipliers and how they change throughout your run, how they apply. So there's regular cards, and those are literally the ace through king, spade, heart, club, diamond,
Very good.
etc.
Wow, you made that sound really hard.
I was panicking. Did you see that in my eyes?
Yeah, yes.
I was looking at you like, help me.
I didn't think you needed help on the 4 different types of cards.
4?
Yeah.
Fuck. So there's the regular cards. There's jokers, which do things like increase the value of hands generally by multipliers. So they may say like every hand that you apply now has a +4 multiplier. They can do things like allowing your bank account to go into the negatives.
Yes.
To buy more things at the store. They can apply.
Do we bring up the story yet?
I don't think we have brought up
Okay,
the
so
story
at the
yet.
end of each round, when you're done, you with your winnings can go to the store to get add-ons, multipliers, cards that give you help.
Yes. And when you beat a round, you're awarded a dollar figure as a value. And then if you beat the boss blind at the end, that's like even more of a dollar increase. So those are the jokers. You can only carry 5 at a time during your run. The Arcanas are one-time use cards which permanently change your regular cards. So they may do something like change 3 cards in your deck to a heart.
Yeah.
And then you
Of your
can
choosing.
Of your choosing. Yeah.
They're not as much chaos cards. They're very much like a skilled use card.
Yes, you use them to build your deck out to help you in future rounds, because as you go through your run, you need more and more chips in order to beat a round. So you have planet cards as well, which increase the scoring value of certain hands. So now all of a sudden, a pair can end up being like the most valuable hand you can lay down. If you get enough planet cards that say pairs are now 5 times multiplier for 60 chips or something along those lines. So you want to essentially use these things where an Arcana card can maybe change a lot of the cards in your deck to hearts, for example. And then if you have a planet card that says flushes are worth an exorbitant amount. Yeah. Now all of a sudden you want to always discard unless you have a heart, and your run is going to be about getting that flush in order to get as many points as you can based on the additional multipliers you've applied to flush hands.
Yeah.
In the same way, whereas if you're playing Slay the Spire, and this isn't going to mean as much to you, Andrew, because you don't play the game, but if you're playing the Silent or whatever his name is, and you do a poison build, so anytime you have an opportunity to pick up a card, it applies poison, and then you discard anything that doesn't have to do with poison. Those are the kinds of things that you do in a regular deck building game that just feel a lot more natural, I think, in a poker-based deck building game because of that inherent familiarity we have with everything.
Yeah. Okay. That makes total sense.
So that's those are the different cards that we'll talk about, and we'll go now to the blinds. So we talked about how there's 3 blinds that you can play. There's the small blind, the large blind, and the boss blind. If you hear me say blind and you think, I know what that is.
You don't.
No, you don't.
No, you don't.
No, you don't. Blinds are just rounds.
Yes. Blinds are rounds. There are 3 rounds per stage?
Yeah.
Some of that?
Yeah. And every time you go through a quote unquote stage, every time you beat a boss blind, the ante goes up. So you start in ante 1, and then you could go to ante 2 and then 3 each time you beat the boss up to ante 8. Now we didn't get that far, so we don't know what happens after that. But every time the ante goes up, you require more points to get through each of the blinds, and the boss gets more difficult.
Yes. And the bosses have these powers that the blinds don't, where they're like, this round, no, diamonds don't mean anything. And you're like, oh no, you know, like kind of thing. Or I can discard 2 cards out of your hand. Right. And it just gives you a level of difficulty that the small and the big blind do not give you.
Right. And can make it so that if you've been, say, for example, you get to the big blind or the boss blind and it says, all hearts have half their inherent value, and you've built a deck like we talked about earlier around getting as many flushes out of hearts as you possibly could. Yeah. Now all of a sudden you're really going to scramble to either change your deck completely or try to find a way where even at half multiplier, hearts are still worth. So you either double down on it or completely go the other direction, whichever is going to fit you the best.
Yeah, makes total sense.
So that's kind of the general idea of the game. Is there anything we're missing there that you can think of? I know there's a lot of information.
We're throwing a lot at you. If you didn't get that, we do play the tutorial in the YouTube video. Yeah. So you can go over there and watch us do that.
How did you find the tutorial in terms of easing you into the game? Did it work or did it not?
I actually think it worked pretty well. Yeah. I was at one point, I made a joke about how much Jimbo talks. Jimbo the card. Yeah. It's like, Jesus Christ, this guy won't let us go. But as we've just tried to explain out loud, it's actually not as easy as you think. Even though once you start playing, you're like, oh, I get it. Yeah. So that tutorial was actually pretty good because we learned it pretty fast.
The fact that for a game that was as complicated as we just described, within the first 15 minutes, you were like, Jimbo talks too much. That means Jimbo did a good enough job. Jimbo, again, is the joker that leads you through the tutorials. Jimbo did a good enough job of teaching us all of the mechanics to the point where 15 minutes in, we were like, I think we got this.
Yeah. Shut up. Man.
That's impressive for a tutorial.
I was going to say, for a card game, like I was just saying about the game night thing, and somebody starts going on for 18 minutes, and you're like, oh my God. Yes. This we're playing, and the guys explain to us, and I'm like, oh, okay, we got this.
And honestly, the tutorial did a really good job of, you know how sometimes when you're playing through a tutorial, it'll be like, now click this, and you have to click it, and it's like, well, you have 2 pairs, so make sure you play that.
Go, stupid.
Exactly. Yeah. And you're kind of like on rails, so as much as you think you're learning, you're not. This does a really good job of like very early in being like, play a couple hands, see how it goes.
And the other thing is he doesn't go away. Yeah. Like even during the shops and stuff like that, he's like, oh, do you want blah, blah? And you're like, all right. So like it does feel consistent throughout, which is nice. The visuals themselves are interesting because it is very pixelated in 8-bit. Oh, by the way, are you watching X-Men 97?
Not yet. I'm very excited about it though.
It goes week to week.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Okay, right. I'm waiting for it to build up a little bit.
Okay, so the 4th episode just aired recently. Sorry if we're putting this out of order, but it's all about being inside of a video game.
Oh, amazing.
Being inside of an X-Men video game.
No.
And it's like 8-bit and the music and stuff like that. And I'm not going to say more, but it was very good. And I just thought about this podcast immediately where I was like, holy shit.
That's amazing. We got to give that. Cool. I'll watch that one. And hey, maybe we'll do an episode on it.
Hey, maybe.
Who the fuck knows? No, you were talking about the visuals of this game.
Oh, yes. So it is an 8-bit style of like, we could see pixels, but it's more cute to see pixels than, whatever, not necessary. And I would say it does a very good job with its visuals because it doesn't get in the way.
Yes.
That's really all you
Yes.
want to do. It needs to be functional and not distracting. There are moments where you play these tarot cards or planet cards or earth cards or whatever they are, and there's a little visual to them that like, oh, it's water, so it splashes.
Yeah,
or
yeah,
something
yeah,
like
yeah.
that.
Yeah.
But it's not too much to get distracting. And I really think that it's kind of the perfect amount.
That's a great point. And that applies also to the sound.
Oh, yeah.
Where
Yeah.
the music is on a loop, and it's probably 3 minutes on a loop, and it somehow is noticeable, but not in the way, in the way that a song that is just playing constantly can often be, I think. Like imagine playing this game for 30 hours. If the loop that played over and over again was insufferable, I don't think I can make it through an hour of the game.
Yeah, right.
But the fact that I remember thinking, oh, this is a pretty good song, and yet can't hum it off by heart is a good sign, I think.
Yeah.
It's good atmosphere. And to your point about the visuals, I totally agree. Up at the top, like in the title screen, there's this weird, I guess like borrowing from the Joker aesthetic, like carnival element to it.
Yeah.
Like 8-bit carnival. Like, oh, is this going to be like
a little twisted.
Yeah, a little twisted. Like you've peeked under the tent at the freak show, baby.
Oh, it's a little twisted.
I thought it was
Classic
going to be like
Joker.
that, and I was like, maybe. Oh, classic Joe. Oh, yeah, that works.
Thank
I like
you.
that a lot.
Thank you.
I thought maybe it was going to be a bit more of that kind of inscription, like purposely low res, low poly, in order to like fuck with you a bit, but it isn't. It kind of gets that out of the way, and then the playing field reminds me of like Solitaire.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of, it looks like Windows 95 in a way that I, for some reason, don't find unappealing.
No, I would completely agree with you. I don't think this game needs to do more. If it if you download this game and you're like, it's 10 gigs, you're like, what? Why?
Yes. It was 60 megabytes, this game.
Perfect.
Yes.
But if it was like doing it like, oh, it's because of the visuals, you're like, I don't need that.
Yes,
You know,
exactly.
like I'm here to play a card game. Most of the thoughts that I'm gonna, or most of the challenge I'm gonna have is in my head.
Right.
And I'm like, you know, I'm not gonna be like looking for it to tell me what to do.
100%.
And I think that's just it shows a lot of awareness of how people are going to participate inside of your game.
I agree. And I think it speaks to why it's easier to absorb the information that the game is giving you. Like when we started to open up, because you can buy decks of cards at the store, and some of them are like buffed cards. So there's like a diamond card or one with like a little tag on it. And if you hover over it, it tells you what that means, whether it's an additional multiplier or more chips than a typical ace has or something along those lines, or a wild card, which is just like a 7 of clubs with a bunch of bullet holes in it that you can play in any
Which is
suit.
you're kind of a wild card.
I'm of course a wild card.
Yeah.
I might tuck my shirt in from time to time, but you know what I'm not going to do?
Untuck it?
Yeah.
I was gonna be like, you're completely unpredictable, and then for a second I went, you might be the most predictable person
in
I've
the
ever
world.
met. Yeah.
We were recording today. I have like a hard out, and Andrew didn't know. I didn't mention what it was, and we get here and we start recording, and he's like, by the way, like what is this? You need to be done by 3:00 on a Thursday afternoon. What is this about? And I was like, oh, I've got this engagement to go to, and he's like, I assumed that you were gonna say I really need like an hour to decompress before I go to the gym. And that says so much about your impression of me, but I'm not even mad about it because that does sound like something I would say. Like,
and I was going to be like, push you and you'd be like, Andrew, it's really important.
It is really important to me.
Like it would be like one of those things where you look at me like, I can't believe you're trying to negotiate with me about this. Like, why don't you understand why this is important?
The other side of that is like, when you say that, I'm like, that's funny. And I can see why you would think that. Where my mind goes is, oh my God, I bet you he had a conversation with this player one being like, I can't fucking believe I have to go down this afternoon. I guarantee you it's something stupid like he has to do this and we have to fit this in. Like in my mind, I'm like, you asking me does not come out unless that conversation has already happened. I was like, fuck.
No, you know, it's funny. We've that it was funny that I just thought, I'm like, 3:00 in the afternoon is kind of a weird time to be like, oh yeah, something really important's happening. And then you're like, hey, something important's happening. I'm like, oh, that's a relief. I thought I was going to have to negotiate explain why this was silly.
Yeah. Why you need to get out of your own head.
Yeah. You know, it's so funny. I was thinking about Balatro too, because I was just like, you know, like I was saying about traveling with Switch and stuff like that. I'm like, fuck, I want this to come to mobile.
Yes.
Because this feels like a game, and I'm sure
But it's on Switch.
It is on Switch.
So you could like, this is a perfect fucking plane ride game. Like, it's such a perfect plane ride game.
It is a lot like, and we'll talk about this because I'm assuming we'll give it a score at the end. Yeah. Is that there's a lot of civilization to this, where I know this could not be a more different game, but in the way that I only played Civilization.
I like to think as well, there's a lot of civilization to the way I live my life, Andrew.
You think so?
It's very civilized. I tuck my shirt in at home when no one's around.
Yeah. I yell at Gandhi.
That's supposed to be behind closed doors.
Roosevelt's always threatening to nuke
me. Roosevelt is always ready to nuke me.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Have I told you that Canada's Wilfrid Laurier?
Yes.
I always like that. I don't know. He's on a $5 bill.
So how is this game like?
It's like Civilization because I imagine, and I'll get to more of this when we do this course, but it's like I will need it when I need it.
Yes.
And then I will jump in with 2 feet and I'll go, thank you very much for being here for
100%.
me when I needed this. You go away now.
Yes.
Like I'm not going to think about you for a second.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Because of the lack of investment of like, let's say something stupid like Marvel Snap is like, but if you sign in every day, you might get like a special Cyclops or something like that. Then it does incentivize you in a bad way. Or like you were saying about Wordle or something like that. I play New York Times Connections every day. I do the crossword.
I love Connections.
It's a nice little, like, it takes 2 minutes and you're like, oh, this is fun. And, but every day it's something new. So I have incentive to come in and try it again.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Or the crossword has a streak.
Yep.
So you want to do that, right? This one will be like, it might not change that much, like, oh, there might be a new update or a new whatever. And they might have new cards that are bonuses, but it's not too much. So it'll always be there when you're like, hey, guess what? Are you on the bus?
Yes.
Great. Are you commuting somewhere? Are you in a waiting room? Hey, I'm here for you, baby.
Right.
But it's not one where I'm like, everyone get out of my way. I got to sit on my couch and play Balatro.
100%. There are 2 things based on that though, that I worry about a little bit with this game. One, 52 cards to start with, even though they're all very familiar and predictable, is a lot to start with in a deck building game. So if I'm trying to create a deck that benefits me, because I always want to do like a 3 of a kind or like all hearts or something like that, it really takes a while before that effect is going to be felt. Whereas when you're playing something like Slay the Spire, I think you start with like 8 cards or something like that.
Okay.
And it's easy to scrap cards. It's easy to pick up new ones. And in fact, picking up a really good card early makes a huge effect because it's cycling through your deck so often. Granted, and this brings me to my second worry about the game, it seems like the runs in Balatro are supposed to last a lot longer than a lot of other roguelikes or deck building games because it's, from what we tried, we moved through it like it was knife through butter. So every time you restart, you're going to have to go through that phase. I could have imagined us playing this for another 40 minutes before we have to go again, before we die. That is a problem for me sometimes because in these roguelikes, if a run takes too long, then it isn't convenient to just sit down on a bus and play because you're not going to finish a run. You don't have that beginning, middle, and end satisfaction to it.
Is there no like save or like leave off?
There is. So you can keep going to it, but there is something nice about, like, to bring it back to Deep Rock Galactic Survivors, 20 minutes, I know exactly how my run went.
Yeah.
So if I'm sitting on the bus or I've got 20 minutes before an appointment or something like that, I know I can get to the end of it and be like, this, I won or I failed or whatever it is, I know.
And you want to accomplish something too. Like it's a very thin balance between like, it's predatory in its way of like, oh, you come back every day. I want your time. I want you to do stuff. That sucks when it's so naked.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the opposite of that is nothing matters.
Yes, true.
And that's also not good. I think we're really hot with this game right now.
Yeah.
Because we also quit while we were up.
Yes.
And so we're like, oh, I can't wait to play again. If we had died and then tried to start again a couple levels in, I wonder how we'd feel.
That's true. The other side, though, is, and we don't know this, unfortunately, we should have done it. We should have purposely died and started a new run to see what things carry over. Because something that you like about a game like Deep Rock Galactic is every time you die, the resources you've got, you can now upgrade your base character to make it so that the next time you start, you're a little bit better and you're seeing results a little bit quicker.
Right.
And I'm sure Balatro has something like that, but we don't know for sure. And if it does, then even dying 2 rounds in isn't that much of a detriment because you get to start again that much better than you were the time before.
DRGS, we call it, obviously. Deep Rock Galactic.
Oh, of course.
DRGS.
We're constantly calling it that to the point where like the creators of the game are like, you can't do that.
Or they're like, say whatever you want. Pronounce it however you want.
Yeah, we don't give a fuck. You gave me your money already. I don't care.
It is a lot like, I was thinking about when you said it was just one person. It's a lot like Stardew Valley.
Oh, yeah.
One person did that.
Except Stardew Valley to me is much more impressive. It's a much bigger game. Not that this isn't impressive, but Stardew Valley is
I couldn't even do
anomaly.
1/1000th of whatever this person came up with.
Don't ask me to.
No.
I'd create the worst game of all time.
Yeah, we create a semi-popular podcast and we're so satisfied with ourselves.
I tell you what it would do. really make me appreciate the people behind Gollum, the video game. I'd be like, this is actually pretty fucking impressive.
Everyone needs to chill out with their criticism of Gollum.
They programmed this from the ground up. It's spinning in my console right now, and I'm playing as Gollum. I don't care that it's not
They
good.
came up with this idea of a little monster that no. That's been around for no. They came up and he's like, did you know that when he found the ring, he was with his best friend? And do you know what his best friend's name was? I love this. I can't stop telling everyone. You know Smeagol, right?
Yes.
Did I do this on the podcast?
I don't know, but do it again.
His best friend, when he found the ring, and I think he killed him in the boat that they were together.
Oh, that sounds great.
Smeagol's best friend? Deagle.
Oh, it's J.R.R. Tolkien.
Yeah, just another one. Just knocked it out of the park. Oh, Jared, another just spinning gold, baby.
Smeagol and Deagle.
But yes, I agree with you. Like they are very different games, but it is just impressive that one person could come up with
wildly
this.
impressive.
It's just insane.
And it honestly, it's the kind of thing where like it shouldn't, because I know that even though it's kind of a stripped down game, there's no chance in hell I'd ever have it being able to make something. But it is the kind of thing that looks so effortless that I'm like, maybe I could make video games.
Yeah. I think I could learn programming before I came up with a concept this good.
The concept is key.
Yes.
I mean, that's what it is. When I was a kid and I was thinking about making video games, I was like, okay, what about a game where it's like a real-time strategy, but then you can like zoom in to like the specific pirate ship, and then now it's a ship battle, but then you can zoom in, and now it's an actual pirate. You're the pirate and you're taking over. I'm like, why don't they just do that?
Yeah.
Well, because that's programming 6 games in one.
Yeah, why don't they do that? What if I was like 7 and I was just like, what if I was just a little goblin obsessed with a ring? And I just like kind of did goblin stuff and just like went around.
It's co-op. You have a like your co-op friend named Deagle or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah. And so here's the killer. It's just a shitty game. I honestly,
Andrew, I would say your dream will come true.
Yeah.
No. This is all the credit in the world to a one-man development team or one-person development team putting this all together. It's incredibly impressive. For $13 as well. It's similar to like, I mean, when Vampire Survivors came out, it was literally like $1.50. There's no reason not to buy that game.
Yeah.
This, at $13, you start to question it a little bit. But I'd say, for the couple hours that I know for sure I'm going to get out of it, worth the purchase.
This would be one of those apps you get on your phone. I'm already at iOS type.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but is that so apps on your phone? And you're like, I need space. And you start looking around on your phone. And you're like, I'm not deleting that.
I'm not deleting that one.
Because
I'm
I
going to play
always
it
could
eventually.
use it. Yeah, 100%. It's like,
mobile. This is made for mobile, and this is all to say, we haven't really talked specifics about like what we liked about it, but I mean, everything.
Yeah,
the mechanics that we explained are complicated enough to keep us interested round after round after round, and not so confusing that we couldn't pick it up in like 20 minutes. I mean, that's really impressive.
Yeah, like if you're based off, you're right. The things that we like about it is kind of a short conversation because it is most things.
Yeah.
Like it's nothing specific. I think if you're starting off the basis that people like to play cards and gamble, that's a pretty good place to start.
Sure.
And then you're adding more chance into it with these skill cards.
Yep.
That's just a great idea in general because you're already building off something that has been worked since the existence of humans.
And
like people like chance games.
100%.
You know what I mean?
And not only like chance games themselves, but from an aesthetic perspective and the things that really get us addicted in video games, we talked about DGS.
Yeah.
Deep Rock Galactic Survivor. DRGS.
DRGS.
We talked about DRGS.
Dr. GS.
Dr. Gus. We talked about Dr. Gus and how the number go up element of it is very intriguing.
Very satisfying.
There is a number go up element in this because
Absolutely.
the multipliers go up. You're playing the same fucking hands, except when you do it this time, it's now worth 20,000 points, whereas in the beginning it was worth 200. That is genius game design.
100%. Everyone wants to be satisfied. You want that satisfaction thing. And so you get that when you're like, I'm going to discard cards. I get cards. Okay, I get cards.
Yes.
That's exciting. That's one thing. Then you play them. It worked. Okay. And you're seeing the numbers go up. Great. And then the multipliers. And there's like stages of like, okay, good. All right, great. And that is just such a rewarding feeling because it's over and over and over again. You get that feeling.
It's the same reason to go back to loot boxes, why those were so satisfying to open. In Overwatch specifically, it's like you see them there and they're glimmering. You're like, ooh, it's satisfying. I have this thing unopened. You click on it and it kind of like spins around and there's an animation where it like, it opens up and then the things shoot in the air and you can see the colors of them. So you're like, oh, I know I've got one super rare, one this, and then they land and then you see what they are. There's like 4 stages of steps that keep you excited about like what's coming next. Same thing with like Diablo, where you would get like these rare items that would drop, but you would need a scroll to find out exactly what they were.
Yeah.
So you're like, oh my God, I got a mysterious, unique item, which is an immediate sense of like, fuck yeah, that's a loot drop. I love it. And then you get a second one when you apply the scroll to it to see what it is. It's like, it's like it compounds that excitement. It gives you, like you said, seeing the multipliers go from left to right, seeing the card come out in the deck. There's so many steps of that satisfaction. And we haven't even talked about the animation of opening a deck of cards, which in every game I play is fantastic.
Just
I love that. Yeah.
I was thinking about when you were saying that about the loot box. I was thinking about 2K because they realized how much opening decks was like a huge part. Opening packages or packs was a huge part of it, to the point that they became like 30-second animations of like a player comes through the tunnel and hits the court and they're in darkness, and then you see
they'll show you the flag of the player first, so you're like, oh, from Argentina.
Yeah. 76ers. Okay, and then you're starting to do the math, and they're in shadow, and they slowly reveal themselves. It's great. It's the best.
It's great, and for one person to have incorporated that, it's the. If someone explains to you the steps that are taken to like hook you in an advertisement or something, it's like that makes a lot of sense. Like I can see how it's done, but to be able to think it up from the ground floor is a skill in and of itself. And again, we can sing the praises of Thunk.
Overthunk? No, what was it?
I could look it up.
Is there in-game purchases? Do you know that off the top of your head?
I don't think there are.
Okay.
Local Thunk.
Local Thunk.
I don't think there are. But if there are, it didn't seem like that really interfered with the game.
No,
itself.
But and also since you're not playing against anybody else, it doesn't really matter.
That's true. So Andrew, do you want to give our reviews of this game?
I would love to.
All right. Usually we'll give a retro view and a review and a current review when we do a retro game, but because this game just came out, I say let's just give it a rating out of 4 bits based on how we think this game holds up in the modern day against like some modern games like Dr. Gus.
Dr. Guz. I will say too, there is a real retro feel to this. So there is something very applicable.
That's true.
You could have imagined a game coming out. This could have come out 20 years ago.
100%.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
Okay. Out of 4 bits. This is a technically almost perfect game.
Yeah.
Because what it's asking you, what it's giving you, and it's like, I'm satisfying every option here.
Yeah.
And you're like, you've delivered on everything.
Sure.
Now, where do I find this more intriguing of where do I knock it?
Yeah.
Right. And I think it's more of the issue of the user. This is a game that will not keep you coming back because of the rewards of doing it. You will be satisfied playing the game because it's fun to play.
Sure.
But there's no drive of like, gotta get home and play Balatro. Yeah. Like it's, oh my God, I got to. But it's very satisfying when you have the option to play it. So if anything, I would play this game, but I'm not going to play it for the number of hours that I would play something that maybe even I like less.
Yeah.
Because it's not keeping you driven into the game. That being said, nearly technically perfect. Love it so much. I will absolutely play this game. I'm going to give it 3.5 out of 4.
Yeah, I like where you're coming from with that. The whether or not it gets its hooks in you is everything. And you can say that about every deck building game. What I will say about this deck building game is it got its hooks into me immediately. A very well designed tutorial, mechanics that work, the addictive qualities that you want, the satisfaction of success. And even as we're talking, I'm like, I wonder what other strategies, like 30% of my brain power during this recording has been like, what else could we have done in that? What am I going to do in my next round through this? Like, I'm excited to give this another shot. Like you said, technically almost perfect in the way that it's designed, including the choice not to have microtransactions as long as they remain out of it. That's fantastic. And we'll see how this game is supported down the line with DLC of like new jokers or card packs, whatever it is, new decks that you can get, which is an element we never even explored is there's new decks. I'm with you. 3.5 out of 4. There's a ton left here that I want to give a shot to give a chance. I was very rarely can I play a game for 20 minutes and be like, yes, I'm in.
100%. Yeah, I'm so with you. And I think this is like, we're not giving the awards. Unfortunately, we're not walking the red carpet.
No.
But an award I would give this game is it gets the recommend award because you could recommend this game to anybody.
Yeah.
Anybody. No matter their age, no matter what system they're on, no matter how, do they like video games? Doesn't even really matter. Do they like card games? Doesn't really matter. Yeah. Most people will find a reason to like this game. And in that way, it's very impressive how broad it is.
100%.
You know?
Yeah. It's the kind of game that I would love to show to my parents and see if they like it. I could see them liking it. I could see a lot of people who aren't generally into games, if they like these kind of stats-based things, I could see them getting into it.
Yeah, 100%. So like I full recommend from us. Balatro was great. And I would go play it, especially for, a pretty reasonable price.
100% for that $10 or so.
Yeah.
I just, before we go, wanted to give another shout out. We always like to, on this podcast, give our listeners a little bit of a bump. This one's been waiting a while. We've had some people submit some comments in the interim, but we've just been kind of backed up. So we haven't been able to get this one. It's going back a few weeks, over a month, I think. Joe Griffin, big friend of the podcast, reached out with his list of least favorite games. Which I wanted to make sure we talked about before we get too far away from the episode. And apologies to everyone who we haven't gotten to just yet, because we are working through.
The further we get away, it just sounds like Joe's got like I gotta tell you something. Here's these games I don't like.
Actually, one of our most popular episodes in the last few months was our least favorite games episode.
Really?
So go give that a shot if you haven't heard that one yet, or if you're a new listener. Joe Griffin's least favorite games, Resident Evil 6. He says, so much hype behind this game and such a huge, boring disappointment. I do recommend you look up Conan O'Brien playing this game on YouTube. It's hilarious. For me, it would be Resident Evil 5. That would be my pick from the franchise. Sure. Shenmue 3 is Joe's next pick. Take your pick from the Shenmue franchise. I think is liable to be on that list. Mortal Kombat Mythology Sub-Zero. Weirdly, a game that I actually liked back when I played it. Yes, it was kind of like a side-scroller Mortal Kombat game.
Well, now you two need to fight.
I'll finish him.
Yeah, boy, will you.
Devil May Cry 2, probably an unpopular pick. I think
people like that game,
I think people like that game, but I can understand it not being your game. And then Assassin's Creed Syndicate. Most people who submitted a list, there's an Assassin's Creed game on it. So thanks, Joe, for getting us that list as well.
Just another punching bag for Assassin's Creed, which is popular on this podcast. But, I also will say, they make so many goddamn of them that, like, you just eventually can, like, well, pick one.
They do make so many goddamn of them.
I think, you know what? I heard me say it, and I was like, that made sense.
I heard me say they make so many goddamn of them.
It's funny, though. It still makes sense, even though it's just in the wrong order. Or I'm just missing some possessive stuff.
Are you, like, generally feeling okay?
Generally? No. Thanks for bringing it up. Oh, this was a lot of fun. We got to play a fun game today. So everyone, play Balatro and let us know what you think. But until then, we love every single one of you, and we can't wait to talk to you soon. My name is Andrew Bascom, and with me as always is the bad boy of podcasting, Mr. Bebop himself, goddamn,
Mikey Arador.
This is the Retrograde Podcast.
Game over.
Goddamn! Goddamn! I said goddamn.
Furnished by Sad Styles Productions.
For the most part, it's just us trying to fill an hour.